Hey, this is Bobcat Buckley with another Frontline Disc Golf form review. Today we're doing a backhand review for Eric. We got Eric here on the right, Dan Brooks Balls on the left. I'll go ahead and play it through once, back it up and start the review. Bullets here. Alright, so this first bullet here, I pretty much leave there the entire time. Almost every form review I critique it. Get left hand off the disc. I don't think it needs to be there. You'll see Macbeth do it, you'll see Dan do it here. However, when the pros do it, you'll notice that as soon as they start moving forward, their hand goes down. So you see Eric here on the right, as he's moving forward. His hand is still on the disc, and it just slows everything down. And a lot of times, not in Eric's case, but a lot of times when they go to reach back, if their left hand isn't down like Eric's is, their hand ends up being over here and the disc follows the hand, and then you end up rounding. So it's not like that in Eric's case, but that's why I leave it there every time. Alright, so first real note, too big of a next step, which causes his hips to turn, which doesn't allow you to get full momentum over your hips. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you see how big Eric's X step is here. He's landing on his toe, and his hips are turned backwards. We want to make that a much smaller X step. As you can see here with Dan, he still has his hips in line with his target, shoulders in line with his target, and he's able to stay in one linear motion. So you want this back foot here to be about here, and you want it to be almost, it could be a little bit further, maybe like there. You want it to be almost parallel or in the same direction. Dan's is a little bit turned. He lands on his foot a little bit, but for the most part, it's much straighter. He's not on that front toe. I also have on here that Eric walks diagonally. So if you watch Dan, he walks in a straight line, and this is the way Dan coaches too, is you imagine that there's a straight line here. You want your first step to be on the line, your second step, your X step, to be just on this side of the line, and your third step, your plant, should be just on this side of the line. So if you watch Eric actually starts over here and he ends over here. And you might see some pros do a straight line and then have their last plant here. But we're not at that point yet. We're trying to get consistency down. We're trying to throw straight shots. So, straight line, try to keep everything on one line. A good exercise for this is to go to a place like Foursquare right here and use this boundary line right here as your line that you're doing your X step on. I do it in parking lots sometimes. So you'll notice he starts here, and he ends almost all the way in the corner. Dan goes in a slight diagonal too, but he just has a really big last step. It's really his last step that throws him off that straight line. So the hips should be the first thing that fires. Your elbow should lag behind your hips for the entire throw. It's really hard to get down. I know some pros that don't even do it right, but you'll notice, so when Dan is in his reach back, The first thing that moves is his hip. So his hip's turning before his arm starts moving. It's very, very slight. But when you're ready to reach back, you should almost be lazy with his back arm. Your hips should be the first thing that fires. Scoot back up. Okay. I have these notes kind of out of order, but I literally just go back and forth and I pick things out a million times. So sometimes they end up in out of order, but try to organize them the best I can. So weight is over your front foot too early, which comes from the X step being too big. You'll notice like right here, it almost looks like if I were to pause this here and just take a picture, somebody would probably think that he's falling backwards. You'll notice that Dan has a nice center of gravity and his weight is even until he goes with that plant foot. So I like this right here. I think this is a really good picture of Eric because his body is nice and centered. And that's honestly like a good stance. So right here, forward, is the best part of this one. Everything before this, it changes it up. You should see more consistencies. So he looks away a little bit early. So you'll notice Dan keeps his eye on his target the whole time until he reaches back. When he reaches back, his front shoulder pushes his chin and he can no longer look at the target. Eric looks back. Like just before his throw. And then he also looks up early and he opens his shoulders up. But I'll get to that after. His timing's off, reach back peaks before front foot plants. So we want to see this reach back peak as this front foot touches the ground. And Eric's almost there, but it is very, very, it's off by like a millisecond. So you'll see right there, I'd say Eric is about peaked. He's already starting to move his arm forward as his foot touches the ground. Why does he keep doing this? There we go. You'll notice Dan here. Why does he keep doing this? It like keeps clicking and I'm not clicking. Okay, as he touches this plant foot, he's peaked. Opens up shoulders and looks up too early. So, I don't know how Dan does this. So, we call this breaking the glass. It's like, tell people to pretend that there's a pane of glass right here, and you're trying to smash it with your elbow. Most people get it out like here. Dan's got his all the way out here. It's crazy. So you'll notice that at this point, Dan's hips are turned, which means that his hips are in front of his elbow. His elbow is following the motion of his hips. Dan is able to really break through that wall and follow through. You'll notice that Eric by the time his elbow gets past that point we're looking for, his shoulders are already turned and he's already looking up. Dan doesn't look up at the disc until it's out of his hand, which is, again, crazy. It's good It's really hard to do. It's so crazy. Yeah, so when your elbow is trying to catch up to your hips, you end up rounding a little bit. So the disc is coming out of his hand there instead of it coming out of it at its point, like its max point outwards. And so he's essentially, at that point, he either releases a little early, or if he holds on to the point where he's supposed to be, like he should be releasing on his arms like this, at that point you'd be rounding because your arm is catching up to your hips. So that's really all. Whoops, I just made that huge. I'm having computer issues today. I don't know what it is. That's all I have for the negative things. Some things to work on. I wanted to point out a few things that Eric does very nicely. Is nice closed foot on the plant. A lot of times here we will see people step with an open foot, so it's good. It's really good that you are able to keep that foot closed there. I said nice job letting the disc rip out of your hand. What I mean by that is that sometimes I always freeze it at the first frame where the disc is out of your hand, and I zoom in on your hand, and I look to see if it's closed there. If it's open, it means that you're opening your hand and you're not letting the disc rip out, you're like releasing it. So that's not what we want. And great follow through. A lot of times we see people just stop, and that can cause a lot of issues in your elbow. And the reason I go through and I point out the good things in your form is because when you're fixing them, I don't want you to change the good things. I want you to keep those good things, work around the bad things. My very last note that I give everybody is this is a lot. Move myself so you can see the whole thing. There's a lot. Don't try to fix it all at once. I would pick one thing at a time and fix it until it becomes a habit, and then move on to the next. Trying to fix everything all at once, you're just going to confuse yourself and get frustrated. Also, don't be shocked if you see yourself have a setback before you push forward. You got to commit to it. Don't go back to old habits. If you're going to change, you got to commit to the change. So that's all I got for you. Hopefully it helps, and we'll see you out there, and happy belated birthday.